Hi, my name is Love. Yeah, Love, with an F actually, L-O-F. Tell me, dear viewer, did you read the title of this video? Of course you did. So, let's ask you a question. Do you know what maturity is? What does it mean to be mature? Oh, you do know. Well, you're wrong. How do I know that? I don't know it actually, but it doesn't matter. I just want you to stay for a little longer. So, let me tell you a little story. One day, browsing through some Instagram reels, don't worry, I was using my armor, I encountered a little comment, and as you can see, this person was asking for something more mature in the medium of anime. And of course, as a self-proclaimed otaku, I felt some little annoyance at what this person wrote, because, there are plenty of mature anime, right? Yeah, that comment started everything for me, and a spark of intensity was created. So I immediately wanted to prove that statement wrong. Not that I said something rude to this person, but inside my head I just wanted to think of some serious stories in anime, or you could say mature anime. So let's talk about this. Let's begin. The first point your thoughts are going to lead you to is the seinen genre. Sure, where else can we find something on that level? The fierce and heartbreaking stories, those with great animation, all of them, and realistic art style, all of them as well. Of course, that's our mature anime. That's exactly what seinen is. Just take a look. Yeah? Beautiful, yes. Huh, wait a minute. Isn't that strange? Yeah, I know you saw it. That one is not a series we can categorize as a seinen or anything close to being serious, isn't it? Not at first glance at least. But not only bocce, but a lot of these also don't fit into what we consider as a typical seinen. Maybe it's cool if there is an emphasis on these words, we and typical. For now, let's just move on. I realize it can be extremely shocking to ask this question and get an answer like this. You might not like it, but how can we not agree with reality? Take a look at this. This is Manga Time Kirara Max. This is the magazine where Bocce the Rock is being published. And this is not the only place where we can find this information if you are doubting me. But yeah, that means Bocce the Rock is a seinen. But not only Bocce the Rock, Zangatsu no Lion, Barakamon, and even something like A Place Further Than the Universe is labeled as seinen. Honestly, to me, those all make a lot of sense. And by the end, I hope it will to you as well. But we're still putting the whole picture together. And before we confront what seinen really means, let's break down why we mislabel them. Tracking back our steps is not enough. We need to look down at the base of our knowledge and make sure we understand this. These two concepts are the ones I think probably relate the more to some of the reasonings a person can form. The first one is the prototype effect, and the second one is the availability bias. I really struggle to pronounce that. So let's take a look at the prototype effect. This one refers to the human tendency of representing the total image of a category based on its most typical or ideal form, turning it into a prototype, basically the most basic example. And once this occurs, the rest of the examples and characteristics from the category get ignored. Let's do a little example, let's do a little practice, let's do a little game. I'll use the most common example I saw while investigating this. So, I want you to think of a bird. Here's a countdown. 3, 2, and 1. Yes, got it right. If you were doing what you should, you most likely thought of something like this. But here's the thing. You didn't think of this, or that thing. We could continue by now, to be honest. This prototype effect covered what we wanted, but let's also check this other one. The availability bias. These are the estimations we make of something based on what we easily remember. The availability bias concept tends to talk more about the possibility of the occurrence, but the explanation of how we use the more relevant data to judge and then decide is what we can correlate to the prototype effect. And for that, it's important to leave it here. As humans, we try to gather information as fast as possible, but we also try the same when we are delivering it. So our brain travels to the most recognizable pattern it could think of, like feathers, flying, and something very colorful. What is that? That's a bird. Realistic or semi-realistic art style. Few to almost zero jokes. Altruistic themes. What is that? It's Seinen. But by doing that, the genre gets reduced, ironically, to an incredibly flat appearance. Okay, now it's time for one of the bigger clarifications. Seinen is not a genre. And of course, for us, it is, and I've been referring to it as that, when in reality Seinen is a demographic. The word just means youth or young adult. These are concepts that we created so we could make sense of the market. In Japan, the categorization of a series is taken for granted, depending on what magazine that series is coming out from. So to them, the words shonen, seinen, yosei, and all of those are just that. A direction to what magazine to choose depending on what is usually offered in the magazine. Yeah, here's the thing. Thanks to the concepts we just saw, the actual truth became narrower. Seinen is something incredibly broad. That image of Bocchi the Rock and next to Thorfinn, it should be making a little bit more of sense now, I hope. I'm sure we all can have different opinions and perspective, but fairness is a must. And what do I mean by this? Well, I don't think the Hammer of Judging should be released as fast as some people do release it. Seinen can be just about anything, as long as it's aimed at an older audience. As long as it's coming out, well, on a Seinen magazine. But it doesn't have to be incredibly realistic in its art style or being full of blood and depression. The lessons of life are not as shallow as that. Underestimating a show is the last thing a fan of fiction should do. Don't you think that's a little immature? Yes, that was a bridge, and now we're coming back to that question we made at the beginning. Do you know what maturity is? But what even is that? What's the meaning behind maturity? To be honest, the concept isn't really clear. The dictionary tells you that someone mature is an adult, and it's shown in the way they behave. Making in addition to this, an adult is a person that is fully grown in strength and size. Of course, it actually doesn't add anything really to our case, but when it comes to the features of maturity, we can discover actual answers that make sense with what we would think. Being self-aware, having empathy, and making good decisions. Wow, yeah, being mature is really hard. But here's the thing, as the concept says, maturity is something really hard to measure. But at least we got this. Showing violence is not a sign of maturity. Whoa, who could have thought? A literary work filled with blood in its content is not mature. Just because a character is stoic or depressed doesn't mean the work is trying to be mature either. The way you address these themes and situations is how you convey maturity through a work of fiction. Affronting your problems with responsibility is actual maturity. What will a character do after accepting all the blood that he shed with his own hands? How would someone react when the truth is actually in front of you? And how do you handle the moment when you realize that your future is truly in your hands and you want to mend what you did? We often confuse maturity with being serious. But actual maturity is knowing when to take something seriously. And seinen as a genre, it can just be reduced to a few buzzwords. That's the worst thing you can do. Remember that all concepts are human-made constructs, designed to help us understand ourselves and the world. Maturity can be found anywhere. Every story, regardless of its form, can carry mature themes. Do you remember those little cartoons you watched as a child? Or the strange programs that encourage you to express your creativity? Each of them contain deeper messages. Anime with wacky art style and cute characters can hold profound narratives. And there is always something to take from these works. Something that can shape our perspective and be applied to our lives. We just need to stop being so pretentious and become more open to where we find meaning. Isn't that exactly what being mature entails? To be aware of the world, to truly pay attention? So I want you, for the next time, to maybe just for once give a show an opportunity. A show that maybe you didn't want to watch the last time. Trust me. The last time that I checked, crying over an anime horse girl was not on my list. And it doesn't have to be a seinen. That's just the stunning thing about life. Inspiration and salvation can originate from anything. So that will be it. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching and have a good one. Okay, you there, just wait a second. I have something else to tell you. And well, that is that if you liked what you saw, please consider leaving a comment, leaving a like, and maybe even subscribing, because, well, of course, I'm going to post more videos, so it will help me a lot. So once again, thank you so much, and yeah, that will be it.